Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Michaela Peters. This is the morning coffee edition with a large cup of coffee that says Godiva on it. And this is entertaining my baby. I don't even really know what this video is going to be about. Yes, would you like to tell me? Eat your peas. Okay, so I thought of a bunch of different topics that I wanted to talk about for this video, and I think that one of the ones that I'm going to talk about today is going to be about, honestly, how I think, like, low-key going to Finland was always my life dream. But before I start talking about all of that, I'm going to, of course, have the random irrelevant interlude in which I discuss a bunch of other stuff. It's really nice to be home. I wish I could say I'm home indefinitely, like as in I don't have random trips planned. However, that's not true. Because I'm going to Colorado in a couple weeks, because I'm going to see one of my good friends who moved from here. This is kind of the challenging thing about keeping up with all your friends who live in different places, is you have to go see them, or they can come see you. Now I have a lovely guest room. Actually, one of my coworker friends is supposed to come visit me in August, and that's going to be pretty cool. And I also have a friend visiting this weekend. I love that. This is also my life stream, is just hosting people, so I honestly kind of prefer that to going and seeing people, but for a long time I didn't really have a space to host people. And in Finland I don't as much as I do here, because I just kind of refuse to get a roommate in the US, and I think the reason why is because my mom, like, de facto lives in my apartment and is here all the time, even when I'm not like hanging out in here, but she comes in here and, like, does stuff in the baby's room, so it's just not worth it. But it's just kind of interesting because, you know, last week I went down to Maryland to see my grandfather, who is still, what is the nice way of putting this, dying of cancer. I mean, obviously, you can overcome cancer, but he's 86 or 7, so I think he's 87. So I don't really know at this rate, but he is hanging in there. Like, he has now had cancer for literally since April of last year, like 15 months. Like, this is really kind of a miracle. So it's amazing. And he really loves the baby, which is so cute to see. But anyway, my grandfather is the one who, when I was very young, kind of unintentionally did the inception thing and implanted the idea in my mind that life in the Nordic countries is superior to life anywhere else in the world. And I'm like, what do you mean? He did not say superior. He said they have the highest standard of living. And you know, what does that mean? It just means that people have their needs, like, fully taken care of, regardless of their situation, essentially. And maybe that is one of the things that I like about living in New Jersey. Look, I do feel like a psycho whenever I talk about New Jersey, because, like, you know, I say this, it's like, I don't really, like, express my view. Okay, this channel is a different thing, but in general, when I'm talking to people, I'm not, like, really hardcore expressing my views or opinions on things without being prompted. And in general, I just don't really, like, I'm not going to agree with everything you say, but I'm just kind of like, whatever, sometimes. It's just like, do we really need to talk about this? But, you know, like, my dad's trying to talk to me about, like, you know, maybe one day you'll want to go live in Florida, and I was like, no. Like, oh, well, what if a relationship takes you down there? And I was like, nope, I'm not getting married. I'm not going to marry somebody who's going to make me go to a different state. I don't know, like, I have really strong opinions about disliking different states, and that just really comes down to, I visited a lot of them, and I don't like them, and I can literally sit here and articulate why, but that's a discussion for a separate video. But in line with that, another discussion I had last week was, again, about, like, why I like Finland so much. But going back to, yes, my grandfather's like, they have a high standard of living, and it's incredibly difficult to immigrate and get into these countries because of that. So, you know, not everybody who goes and gets their master's degree in Finland is like, oh, I love Finland. It's like my soulmate of a country. TBH, I do feel this way. Then why aren't you in Finland all the time? There's one answer. I love my family too much, even though they drive me up a wall. You can still love somebody, and they can still be very annoying. In fact, I feel like it usually goes that way, because anybody that you're really close to tends to get annoying in some way or another. Yeah, but I just really like so many things about Finland. And yes, the higher standard of living thing is true, and I did not know that I was going to have such strong feelings about Finland. Like, I love Kyrgyzstan, I love Armenia because I spent time there also and I have friends there, but in terms of, like, actually living there and, like, building a life there, like, I just don't think I could do that because the thing I try to explain to people is that once you grow up in a country where, like, as I said before, the laws are not just a suggestion, that's kind of the standard that you, like. And I'll use the very pertinent example of the fact that, unfortunately, I ended up in a situation where the dad is not responsible for our child. And so that would have been a lot harder of a thing to deal with in Kyrgyzstan or Armenia, even in the US compared to Finland. So I keep saying, I'm like, this is the best country that this, like, situation could have happened in, like, literally. So, another reason to love Finland. But yes, so aside from just those things, I'm kind of going to, like, recount some of the things that I was telling this other relative about why I love Finland so much. Because originally the question... What's wrong here? Come on. What? You don't want your peas? I just realized I was talking and that none of it got recorded. We love that. This is really how you know the mom brain is functioning at, like, 100% max capacity. Anyway, what I'm trying to explain is that, one of the questions that I had was, like, whether I'm, again, living in Finland or being in Finland as much as I am to get away from my family. That doesn't really make sense because if I wanted to just be away from my family, I could just go live in a different state. Like, I did live in Texas before. Either way, getting on an airplane to go see somebody, whether it's 2 hours away or 10 hours away, is still an inconvenience that you're not going to do, just to do regularly. So when I was in Texas, it's not like I was, like, super regularly seeing my family anyway, is kind of the point that I'm trying to make. And, it's annoying having to deal with, like, you're doing this wrong, blah, blah, blah. But as I'm getting older, I'm feeling more empowered with, like, people are going to have different opinions on how to raise a child, and none of them are right, and none of them are wrong. It's just, like, an opinion and a preference, because I'm like, as far as we're concerned, all these kids are surviving into adulthood who are, you're doing this or you're doing that, so... I mean, we could get into all the ways that you could traumatize your kid and how I'm trying to avoid that, but that's an entirely separate discussion. So personally, I don't like driving a car. There are a lot of reasons why. Even though I'm somebody who flies a lot, I do care about the environment somewhat and still like to do somewhat of my part to not make that problem worse. And to me, driving a car when you can just take public transportation, like, why are we taking a car? In Finland... especially where I live in Lappeenranta, it is easier to have a car to do some things, don't get me wrong. But it's not necessary. It's just, like, easier. So, I love not having a car. I can answer all my text messages while I'm on the bus or pay attention to my child. It doesn't help that my child also hates being in a car, so there's that. So, as I say all the time, it's a luxury not to have a car. So, I'm just really obsessed with the public transportation thing, but you could also argue that that's just generally a European versus American thing. Fine. I do love the fact that Finland super loves the kids and is like cheap/free daycare, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure this kid has a great life, and the baby box and everything, and don't yell at your kid or we'll take your kid away from you. Some people don't like that. I think that's honestly great. Because yelling at your kid is traumatizing. So, like, I just feel like they care more. Don't get me wrong, you need to learn how to discipline in alternative ways, but it's more like your kid just needs to understand, like, cause and effect, consequence and action. Yelling at them and, like, making them fear you is not a good way to get them to do what you want them to do. Whatever. Now we're getting into my parenting philosophies, which apparently I have some of those too, which I didn't even know until I started talking about it. But anyway. Yeah, it's like, and culturally, like, I get to speak Russian so much more in Finland than I do here, so there's that. A lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of the Russian people in Finland don't really know how to speak English. I mean, the ones in the university do, obviously, but, like, not everybody I interact with is in the university. So, I like that. Whereas in the US, if I meet a Russian-speaking person, a lot of times they're just going to prefer to speak in English anyway, so that's not really helping me. Even just things like how much mail you get sent to your house. Like, I was away for, like, 5 days, and I got 5 pieces of mail. Again, the only mail I'm getting to my house in Finland is something that is usually a bill that needs to get paid. Okay. What else? I mean, I just think culturally, it's quiet, it's peaceful. It's not, like, overstimulating, hashtag autism. Like, really, though, I like just being able to go outside and it's pretty chill. It was cool when the border with Russia was open and I could actually go there. At this point, I just feel like my endeavors to spend any time in Russia, it's a lost cause. And look, man, this is special operation. Okay, anyway, this was pre-war, but, yeah, am I allowed to say that? I don't know. Look, I don't check the news, but I do have a New York Times listserv sent to my email, and I did see about the drone strike in Moscow, and the first thing I thought of was my child's random paternal grandfather, who she will probably never meet. Okay. I don't even know what this guy's name is, I just know he exists. And then the whole point of it was that you can't just be calling the war a special operation because, hello, there was a drone strike. And I was like, interesting. And then I was like, well, okay. And then I proceeded on with my day. And was surprised that my grandmother, who actually follows politics, had not heard about it. But that's beside the point also. So, yeah, La Pedranza was really close to Russia. And I did used to go there, like, in... We're gonna have to move the party down here because I seem to like sitting on the floor. Maybe I was Japanese in a past life. Anyway, in addition to all of those things that I was just discussing, for me, I think it's the slower pace of life. However, there are certain things, like, I still like, hustling a little bit and, like, working towards goals, and I think in Finland there's not really that, but there can be people like that, but it's not like the norm. Whereas I think in the U.S. that's... Can't even see me. Normalized a lot more than... that's common in the U.S. hustling versus in Finland. Like, people are really just chilling. But I like being around people who are chilling because if I'm around people who are hustling, it stresses me out. I want to be the only hustler in the room? ? Okay, so there's that. I don't know. I like having, like, I like that people, like, own smaller places. I like that because, honestly, when you own, like, these big houses, it's, like, it's so much, like, time, energy, money, resources to, like, keep all that going, but that's just, like, the standard in the U.S., so you have to do that. Like, I live in the smallest possible place I could basically live and have it be 2 bedrooms, and, but, like, it's still bigger than the apartment in Finland. Like, I don't know, like... Although I have more stuff here, so whatever, separate issue. But, because, like, people live in apartments, people are closer together, and you can, like, walk to people's houses. And another really big thing that I was explaining that really drives me crazy is that, like, if I make plans with somebody, like, a month in advance, unless somebody says something, that plan is, like, solidified. Versus in the U.S., people be canceling all the time. But, like, really, it's, like, I almost, like, am afraid to make plans with people. So when I realize, like, why is my social life so stunted in the U.S., a lot of it really just has to do with the fact that, like, it is, like, somehow a lot harder to make plans with people. I don't know if it's, like, people work more, like, more things come up. Oh my gosh. This problem I have is that the baby really likes to take handles off of cabinets. Like, why do you have to do that, man? And then it's hard to get them back on. This is the problem with having a baby smarter than you. Are you really going to take it off? She did this in Finland, too. Ay. So, I don't know. It's just, like, I like being not completely stressed out about money. Like, don't get me wrong. I still want to have, like, some assets and I still want to have some money. But, like, as long as I have some money to travel, like, I don't need a huge house. I don't need nice clothes. Like, in fact, I don't even want those things. Like, even if I had money, I wouldn't even have those things. And I've also realized that I hate being a landlord. So, I don't even just want to have a ton of rental properties. I hate dealing with tenants. Like, really, I would just be throwing money, like... in the S&P 500, letting it sit. That's basically the strategy now, I guess. Eventually. Well, and I guess I have to save for my child's future. That's another thing. So, that's all that. But, I don't know. I think the higher standard of living, it's just the fact that, you don't see homeless people on the street. Because, like, living around that too, or seeing that in your country, it like honestly just makes you feel unsafe and like feel like you have to secure your belongings more. And I think this is a big thing, oh my god, why in Finland, you know, people will just like, I would just like leave my laptop out and go eat lunch, and I never had to worry that it was going to get stolen. I could not do that in the US. Like, you would have to be asking people like, hey, please watch my computer because somebody might steal it. So, I don't know. I think it's like just the like expectation that like there's more trust in society, and for somebody who like doesn't like to not trust people, and don't get me wrong, there are reasons not to trust people, but like I like to operate under the assumption that everybody is trustworthy until proven not to. And I know a lot of people do the opposite, where they're like, oh, like I'm not going to trust somebody until I have reason to. That's cool, but like I just don't like living that way. And because I think it like obstructs me from being able to connect with people, and that's something that like I really enjoy doing. You know, I have this Italian friend, and I remember her saying, I need to respond to her text message, I just remembered. Anyway, because I'm trying to get together with her later in the year. But I remember her saying, like, you know, I really like sharing personal things with people, so like I like when people do that back with me. And like I agree, like I really like connecting on yes, what? Connecting on that deeper level with people. And I really do feel like that's more possible in Finland, and people are like, what? But it's just, to me, the nature of everything being very materialistic and capitalistic in the US actually obstructs that level of interaction with people a little bit, because a lot of what you talk about is about like business, and like that's fine. It's just a different culture, and even though I grew up in this culture, it's just not my preference. Like, there's nothing wrong with having a different preference, you know? It's not like liking America or liking Finland more makes you a bad person. It's just like you just have a preference. So I don't know. I guess that's everything I have to say for today about, you know, we just love talking about why Finland is so great. It's probably one of my hobbies at this point, and one of the reasons why this channel is mildly successful. I'm trying to think of ways I can actually like make more money off of this channel, whether I'm gonna like, you know, have like virtual meet and greets. Sorry, I never went to the OD library. Oh, cool. Let's just wipe this on my shirt. We love that. Thank you. Yeah, oh, this cute baby. She's so cute. I cannot stand it. Alright, until next time. Bye.